Hello and welcome to another video. In this one, I'm going to be giving my latest anime update. I try to do one of these every several months or so. It's been since December, I think, so this will be my first anime update for this year. I basically kind of go through and talk about what I've been watching, what I've finished watching recently, whether it's anime movies, television shows, and give my recommendations on the ones that I'm watching. So I have some really exciting stuff that I'm really looking forward to sharing about, some new all-time favorite animes that I've recently checked out over the past few months. So I'm really looking forward to giving these recommendations, as well as hopefully getting some new recommendations and input from you based on what I've been watching. So let's get ready to jump in. Let's talk about the latest anime update for what I've been watching. Welcome once again, my name is Austin, and first to kick things off, let's talk about one of the most popular anime movies to come out of the past year or so, depending on when you watched it, if you had seen it when it originally released in Japan or when it subsequently came to the US. We have the movie Suzume. I believe the director for this one is Makoto Shinkai, and he does some of the most beautiful animated movies that I've ever seen, and this one is his latest endeavor. And we have Suzume, which is a story that I immediately fell in love with, a character I immediately fell in love with. We follow along with this girl who is on her way to school one day. I say girl, but young woman. And she meets this mysterious man and gets wrapped up in this fantastical fantasy of an adventure as she is off to save Japan from this calamity that is trying to get from its world into ours. And it is a really, really well-told movie. It is a beautifully animated film. Her character is really interesting. The other characters in the movie are really interesting as well. The actual main character, besides her, the guy that she meets, ends up turning into a chair for much of this movie, which you wouldn't get that if this was an American animated movie, but it really works well for the story. He's still a really interesting character. So we get to follow along with her journey, her exploration beyond the world that she knows and understands, as she kind of goes along this coming of age type journey and story, becoming the woman she wants to be. And it is very impactful and inspiring throughout. As I mentioned, this movie has beautiful, breathtaking animation all throughout the film. It also has a really fantastic score that I've really enjoyed going back and listening to since seeing the movie. All of this stands out for what was a really entertaining, great film that I would recommend to check out, and I'm really looking forward to giving another watch sometime in the future. Next, we have another anime film. This one is called Wolf Children. It's actually from 2012, so this one's a bit of an older anime film, but it is one that was recommended to me from a friend sometime in the past year or so, and I finally got a chance to give it a watch over the past few months. And it tells the story of this woman named Hana, who basically falls in love with this man who ends up being a half wolf, so he's kind of like a werewolf. And they two fall in love, they start a family, they have 2 children together, and then he dies suddenly in an accident. Not much of a spoiler, it happens pretty early in the movie. But then it is up to her to raise these 2 hybrid children that they have, who have this ability like him to turn into wolves. So it's this really, really compelling, heartfelt, very emotional, moving story of just motherhood, being a kid, childhood, coming of age. It's packed in with so many different themes and different developments all throughout the story. It really follows the children from birth all the way up to them kind of becoming young adults and choosing what to do with who they are and this hybrid ability that they have. So it's a very, very powerful story, one that I really enjoyed. Another one that is very, very well animated. It's not Miyazaki, it's not Makoto Shinkai, but it's another really good one that I really enjoyed and definitely would recommend to check out. Next, for the last anime movie for this one, we're going to have the Sword Art Online Ordinal Scale movie. Now, if you've been following any of my recent, or I guess past anime videos, I'm a pretty big fan of the first season of Sword Art Online, and I've watched some of the subsequent stuff. I've watched Gun Gale Online and a little bit of other stuff as well, but it's been a while, and I had always kind of wanted to continue with Sword Art Online stuff, but just knowing that it didn't hold up to what the show started off as kind of deterred me from doing so. But then in looking up, doing some more research on it, I heard that this Ordinal Scale movie that came out years later was actually pretty good and had pretty solid continuation of the story, specifically from that first season, because the show, or the franchise, I should say, had become kind of complicated between Sword Art Online, Gun Gale Online, all these different alternative type things within the world. So it became a little more complex and hard to follow, and none of it kind of captured the magic of the first season. So I never continued. But then hearing this Ordinal Scale was a pretty good continuation and an homage to this first season of Sword Art Online, I went back and checked it out, and I thought it was really great. I had a really good time with it. It was a really good next step in progressing that story. You get to revisit the characters from the first season of season 1, kind of get an update on them, where they've been, how they're doing, and then you get this new, really interesting story of this game world that they spent so much time in, kind of bleeding into this world. Not only do you get kind of the VR stuff, you get this new augmented reality type game that is kind of taking their world by storm, and it presents new challenges for the characters that I found really interesting. It's another one really well animated, a really good story that I really enjoyed. It's definitely one I want to add to my collection, as it'll be a good kind of companion with the first season of Sword Art Online that I have. But that's another one I really enjoyed. So if, like me, you've only ever really started with the beginning of Sword Art Online and either watched some, didn't continue just because you've heard it's not as good as the first season starts off, I definitely recommend checking out the Ordinal Scale movie. It's a really good one and a really fun watch. Next, we have Dr. Stone moving into some anime series. So this is one that I watched on a recommendation of a friend of mine. Essentially, this one tells the story of Senku and Kohaku. We get introduced to them at the beginning of the series. Senku is a scientist, a high school scientist that is, and Kohaku is one of his best friends, and they're kind of like complete opposites, but it just works for their friendship in that Senku is the scientist, Kohaku is kind of like the grunt of everything. He's super strong and not very smart. But basically, Senku's working in the lab, and Kohaku's about to profess his love to this girl he's had a crush on, and this green flash of light comes and turns everyone on the entire planet to stone. It's then we jump over 3,000 years into the future. Nature has reclaimed the planet, and Senku miraculously gets out of this stone state. He then determines to figure out what happened and use his scientific mind and processes to develop a way to free others from this stone state. And so he's able to free his friend, and then they start kind of using all these different experiments and processes to attempt to free more people and rebuild society. It's so cool seeing the scientific evolution of everything. They basically take what has been hundreds of years of scientific progress and try to pack all of that into the series of the show as they create new technologies and innovate. You get recreation of the wheel again. You get creation of glass, gunpowder, eventually technology with electronics and computers and stuff. And it's so cool to see all of that done all throughout the series. And the science for it all is legit. It's a real science that they get to apply throughout the show. They'll set up a roadmap every once in a while of, okay, we're here, we want to get here. To do that, we need to invent this, and that'll progress us to what we need to get to this end goal. And it's super cool watching them because you get this huge roadmap and you're like, how on earth are we going to get there? And then they go step by step and piece by piece through it. It's a really cool, really inspiring story of not only just like human progress and the capabilities that we have, but getting to see all the science that has gone into it at the same time. Besides that, you get a really good story. There's a lot of different characters in this one as they are kind of bringing back society and world to get us back to the state we were in. You get some conflict stuff with some people who disagree with their philosophy of wanting to free everyone and rebuild society, who would rather live in a survival of the fittest, only the strongest move on type thing. So there's some good conflict along the way, a lot of really good story developments and character evolutions and arcs throughout. If you're at all interested in like science especially, but like post-apocalyptic type stories, but done from a more fun, unique kind of way, you definitely want to check out Dr. Stone because I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's become one of my all-time favorite anime series. And we only have one more season left to go. I can't believe how much it's grown already, and I can't wait to see how we wrap things up. Next, we have another anime series that I've been really enjoying. It actually finished up I think in the past month or so, and that is actually, it was right around the end of last year, but they had some development issues where they had to delay the release of the last few episodes of the season, so I didn't get to finish it last year, but have since followed up and completed it, and that was Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead. This is another one I really, really enjoyed, one of my favorite shows from last year, at least from the anime side of things, and it basically is this extremely fun, stylized world of a zombie apocalypse. I don't remember if I've talked about this show before. I feel like I might have. I think I gave it an honorable mention in my top 10 favorite shows of last year. And so you get to follow along with this group of people who kind of find this new exciting life in the zombie apocalypse. They're so tired of the mundane type rigmarole of world society that they have had, and then this zombie apocalypse breaks out and it gives them new opportunities and a new perspective on life. And I think it's really cool that we take something that's traditionally done in kind of a horror and depressing type story, and it's done for a more hopeful and exciting kind of route. The style of this one is super fun. Like the zombie gore and stuff is done in a very colorful and exciting kind of way, which makes it really unique for the genre, I think. So this is another one I just really enjoyed. Some really good arcs throughout, really creative, fun animation style and different creations and stuff like that. So if you're into like zombie post-apocalypse stuff, check this one out because it's different, unique, and I think you'll really enjoy a different perspective on it. And then lastly, of stuff I have finished, and then we'll jump into a few things I'm currently watching, we have the Attack on Titan series finale. So this has been one of, if not my favorite show of all time. And the finale came out. I watched the subtitled version when it first came out, and then once the dub came out, I checked that out with a friend as well, and absolutely loved it. It is a very difficult episode to get through because of all that it contains. Every way that they wrap up the story, I think, is absolutely perfect, but it's still so devastating once we finally get there. And so if you've been following this show for any amount of time, you know how fantastic the story has been all throughout, the characters and their arcs and their developments, the absolutely stunning artistic designs and animation all throughout. This final chapter special wrapped things up perfectly for me. This is definitely hands down one of my favorite shows of all time. So if you've not had a chance to get on the Attack on Titan train, the hype is worth it. It's fantastic. I definitely want to go back and rewatch this show now, given all the new perspectives that we have gotten over this final season. So definitely check out Attack on Titan, the final season, the final chapters. If you have not and you've been away from the show for some time or you've never given it a chance, it's worth the hype, believe me. So Attack on Titan, I loved that finale. Now, jumping into some things I'm currently watching. Starting off, we have the Netflix original anime series, Delicious in Dungeon. This is super fun. It's basically like a foodie anime mixed with like a fantasy Dungeons and Dragons type thing. It follows this group of adventurers as they're delving through this dungeon to try and rescue one of the magicians from their party. And along the way, they have this dwarf join who's made a living off or survived off of killing monsters and cooking and eating them and coming up with all these really fun, creative dishes and ideas. I loved the show from the beginning. It kind of has its ups and downs, but currently we're about halfway through the season and I'm still on board with it. I'm still really enjoying it. We're really getting into the meat of the story now. So it can become a little episodic at times, but it always kind of seems to get back to the meat of the story when needed. So if you're into foodie animes, if you're into Dungeons and Dragons type stuff, fantasy, it's a really fun mix of the two. I've really been enjoying it. It's another one that just kind of like has this fun adventure vibe to it. It's not too high stakes. It's not too serious. It has its moments where it gets more serious, but overall it knows what it is and it threads that line really well. So Delicious in Dungeon, that one's on Netflix. It's another one I've been really enjoying. Next, the top anime of the season and what will probably become anime of the year, we have Solo Leveling. This is one I heard a lot of buzz about right before it came out and as it came out, and there was a ton of hype surrounding this one. And so I went ahead, started it off, checked it out. I'm watching the dubbed version of it, so I'm a few episodes behind as far as official releases are for it, but I've been absolutely loving it. It's a fantastic show. Amazing animation, brutal, intense story and world that is filled in this one. It basically tells the story of this other dimensional world that starts creating these portals that are connecting to the real world. And so people start awakening as these hunters, what they would be called, and they go in through these portals to fight these monsters, to close these gates so the monsters can't get into their world. And so this one guy that we follow as the main character, he is known as the world's weakest hunter, which is a horrible title to be known as, but he's always been on the bottom of the food chain as far as the ranking of hunters go. And so we follow him on his journey as he goes in on one of these quests, is nearly killed. This is not really spoilers, it's set up and opening episode stuff, and has this reawakening and opportunity to start over again. And essentially the world becomes his video game and he becomes a character kind of, and he gains the ability to level himself up to build his strength, his stamina, his mental abilities, all of these different things. And he just ranks himself up and up and up, but is trying to kind of keep it a secret at the same time. So he's trying to figure out the mystery of how this all happened, how he gained this ability, while at the same time getting himself as strong and as powerful as possible. So it's a fantastic show. I've been thoroughly enjoying it. I'm sad it's only going to be a short 12-episode season because I've been loving the story and everything about it so far. So if you have not already jumped on the Solo Leveling train, that's another one that the hype is real. Get on. It's a really great one, and I've been thoroughly enjoying it. I've been recommending it to a lot of different people. So go ahead, check this one out too. I think you'll really enjoy it. Next, I'm finally continuing my Dragon Ball journey. My journey through the Dragon Ball series. So I watched Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and now I have started Dragon Ball Super. I've been really enjoying it so far. I just got to just about the end of the first Beerus arc where Beerus came and attacked and everything. And so we have gone through Super Saiyan God and stuff now, which was all really cool. So far, there's other shows that I'm watching that I like better than Dragon Ball Super, but I'm still really enjoying it. It's fun to get back with the characters again, get to see more of a modern animation style, as Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z were all back in the 80s. So now we're in like the 2010s. So we got a modern animation style. So it's cool to see all the characters coming back again. I know there's going to be a lot of different villains, kind of greatest hits villains from the original series coming back again. So that's going to be really cool to see too. So I'm just excited to continue to see this story progress. I have all the Dragon Ball stuff in my collection, so I've been really enjoying watching it. So I'm going back and forth between that one and then the last show that I'm watching right now, which is My Hero Academia. This is one that has been on my radar for a while. It's one that I've been wanting to check out for a while. I'm basically going to watch a season of Dragon Ball Super and then a season of My Hero, and I'll just keep alternating between the two until I get caught up on them. So I've been loving My Hero Academia. I just started it a little over a week ago, and I'm already halfway through season 2. It's been a really, really fun ride. I love all the different characters in it. This is another series that has a lot of characters to it, and I'm horrible with character names, so please don't judge me for not knowing who all these characters are. But we just finished the sports festival arc that was kind of kicking off season 2, and I've been really enjoying it. So this one tells the story of a boy who is known as Deku, and he lives in this world where basically kind of like a Solo Leveling thing, where basically there's this awakening, and everyone, or the majority of people, 80%, are becoming superheroes. So there's this population of the society that is very prominent, being 80% of the population, that have superpowers, and then only 20% do not. And he dreams of becoming the world's greatest superhero today, becoming the next All Might, which is essentially kind of the Superman for this world, the greatest superhero in their world. And he dreams of becoming as great as All Might. And then he finds out that he does not have the gene to develop superpowers. And so then, as he's kind of coming to terms with that, he meets All Might, and All Might actually gives him the opportunity to slowly transfer his powers to him. So we get to go through this really cool arc of him gaining these powers, becoming the hero he always dreamed of, but learning what it truly means to be a hero and putting a new perspective on it all. So he gets to go to this academy that is for superheroes and training kind of thing. So it's kind of this mix of a superhero anime, a school anime show, and it's really fun and really, really entertaining. So I've been really enjoying all the different characters, the creativity with the different superpowers and stuff. I mean, you get awesome powers, like Shoto's been one of my favorite characters, who has this fire and ice ability where the left half of his body has fire powers and the right half has ice powers. You got another guy who has this like brainwashing ability. Deku's rival has this explosion ability. He can create explosions. So like you got awesome powers like that. And then you got weird ones like naval laser, where a guy can shoot a laser out of his belly button. So it's just got a really fun wide range of things. I guess it's really fun quirkiness to it, but then it also has like a serious side too, and it balances all of that really well. So like I said, I'm halfway through season 2 right now. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Probably one of my favorite shows I'm watching right now, and can't wait to continue to see where it goes as they're getting ready to kick off season 7 sometime this year. So that's everything for my anime update for this one. I'll be jumping in again in a few months to give you another update of where I'll be at that point, of some stuff I finished, probably the stuff I'm watching now, and some other new stuff that I'm checking out. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments down below what you've been watching recently as far as anime goes within movies and series. Give me some other recommendations that I might enjoy and check out based on what I've been watching. Thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one.